Bridgestone name has long been synonymous with wintertime traction, thanks to their Blizzak family of winter tires. In response to the emerging popularity of Three Peak Mountain Snowflake branded all-weather touring tires in the US market, they released their first foray into the category, the WeatherPeak. And true to its heritage, it's one of the strongest we've ever tested in the snow. And yet, where Blizzaks are concerned, compromises in the name of ice and snow traction are acceptable, and even expected on some level. But all-weather tires are designed for year-round use, and the expectation here is balance.
On that front, our testing has shown the WeatherPeak falls a little short, finding itself at or very near the bottom of the Grand Touring All-Season category in wet traction, dry braking, and on-road refinement. While it's not what we consider unacceptable, we can't help but long for better balance and wonder what could have been if Bridgestone had dialed back some of that snow traction in exchange for more non-winter performance.
Well, it seems Bridgestone heard our prayers and said, hold on, we'll do you one better. They've recently launched the WeatherPeak's replacement, the UltraWeather, and spoiler alert, it doesn't simply trade some snow traction for improvements elsewhere. We've already had the opportunity to run it through our 4-season testing, and it's better at everything.
In our on-road evaluation, the UltraWeather delivered top-tier refinement that not only surpassed the WeatherPeak, but should also be one of the best in Grand Touring all-season. The nicely composed ride controlled body motion while also smoothing over the larger impacts that were more apparent in the WeatherPeak. Noise from the heavily siped pattern was kept in check, blending into a medium-volume, broad tone with few distinct characteristics. The steering was surprisingly good for a touring tire, much less an all-weather touring tire. It was natural and progressive in all the right ways, and while it wasn't incredibly quick or eager, it felt just right for the daily drive or a long-distance cruise.
Our wet testing took place on an early season day, with the air temperature hovering right around freezing. While we didn't run our usual wet track laps, we put the tires through our objective braking and lateral traction testing, and the UltraWeather was a significant step above its predecessor, braking 10 feet shorter and generating a noticeable 0.05 of a G more on the skid pad. Both of these numbers should make the new tire competitive with the current leaders in the category.
Dry testing was performed in similar ambient conditions, and we saw a more modest improvement of 3.5 feet in braking from 50 miles per hour. The two tires tied in lateral traction, but we should definitely point out that we've never found the WeatherPeak to be deficient in that particular metric.
Ice traction tends to be one of the most challenging conditions for any tire with aspirations of being usable 365 days a year. The WeatherPeak has always delivered mid-pack results on the ice in our testing, and the UltraWeather should climb the charts when we compare it to the larger group. It knocked about 0.3 of a second from the 60-foot acceleration time and 2.5 feet from the 12-mile-per-hour braking distance.
So, looking at the improvements the UltraWeather has made in literally every attribute, and knowing the WeatherPeak was already one of, if not the strongest all-weather tires in the snow, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is where the compromise comes into play. But no, the hits keep on coming. The UltraWeather managed to improve on snow acceleration and braking too, by a solid 2.3 feet to 12 and 2 more feet from 25.
And it doesn't stop there. Our last and most challenging winter test takes place on a packed snow handling loop, forcing the tires to put together acceleration, braking, lateral grip, and handling, all the way up to and over the limit. It very often exposes flaws that you wouldn't normally experience during everyday stop-and-go traffic. And once again, the UltraWeather delivered. It improved on the WeatherPeak by a 0.5 point in every subjective category and set laps that were nearing 2 seconds faster, which is a monumental advantage on a 60-second track.
Of course, we have plans for a full test where we'll compare the UltraWeather head-to-head with the best competitors in Grand Touring all season. But based on these initial results, it looks like there's another very good option in an already crowded space. While that might make it even harder to decide which tire you choose, that's not a bad problem to have. And the good news is it's hard to go wrong. So be on the lookout for our full test later in the year, and as always, thanks for watching.